We saw Jimmy Kimmel's show was canceled. I heard Mark Maron today talk about it. He said, you guys were so afraid of being canceled. You went out and you screamed and you yelled about being canceled. But the cancellation was coming from people who didn't like what you had to say, who didn't agree with what you were saying and were speaking out about it. This cancellation is the United States government coming and taking your voice away from.
Yes, all of a sudden, out of the blue, claimed the Late Show was losing $40 million a year, and then miraculously got FCC approval to sell their company, which is what they wanted. And I guess that wasn't enough for El Presidente, because he posted, the word is, and it's a strong word at that, Jimmy Kimmel is next to go in the untalented late night sweepstakes, which is alarming because I don't know if you know this, Jimmy Kimmel is me.
If it weren't for Trump's administration, the kind of bloated reality program that would be canceled after just one season. The reality that a whole nation is at risk. With a blend of late-night wit and activist rage, Jimmy Kimmel and Mark Ruffalo cut through the show, revealing the ridiculousness that topped the Trump Tower gold plating. It's more than just a roast. A man who confuses turmoil for charisma, spin for strategy, and praise for true leadership is being destroyed.
Yes.
Do you think that you were poking the bear a little bit to see if they would,
No.
by doing political stuff and all, or saying whatever is on your mind and risking viewership? Do you think you're kind of poking them a little bit to see what they would do?
No, and I really, this is just my, I don't know. This is, I really think that when they were trying to buy Fox, they were worried that Trump was going to screw them up somehow. And I think that was part of why they were nervous about my comments, you know.
So why does this matter? Why are people out here getting soaked in the rain to send a message?
Because we see our democracy is in real trouble. We see a president who has made himself a king and dictator, and we don't see an opposition that's powerful enough to stand up against the trampling of our rights and the trampling of the Constitution that's happening every single day.
Please click the bell symbol and subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Kimmel highlights how Trump's decision-making is slapstick, with each proposal feeling like a joke waiting to be revealed. He seems to be sitting in the Oval Office with a roulette wheel full of foolish thoughts that keep spinning until it hits the next mistake. With his activist edge, Ruffalo emphasizes how these actions are not just embarrassing, but also harmful, transforming governance into an improv game with direct repercussions for common citizens. Together, they reveal how Trump's whole administration has been more about preserving his brittle ego as a man who is desperate to maintain his position of prominence than it has been about serving the country.
Or as he has to be reminded not to call it, the uck. Paddington Unbearable is in England for an official visit with the royal family. Wait till he finds out tea time has nothing to do with golf. He's going to be very upset. The royals are expected to greet the president and first lady tomorrow, but some clever Brits are already rolling out, well, I wouldn't call it a red carpet exactly, but rather a King Kong-sized photo of Trump with his buddy Jeffrey Epstein.
Under Trump, foreign diplomacy turns into a farce. Kimmel makes fun of the strange handshake competitions, awkward photo opportunities, and meaningless declarations that take the place of true alliances. Ruffalo adds weight by highlighting how America is undermined on the international front by these stage tricks. World leaders receive the haphazard improvisations of a man who views every summit as a publicity junket in place of a well-thought-out plan. As a result, there is less diplomacy and more international improv night, leaving allies to question if they have committed to a serious gathering of statesmen or a comic festival.
And shortly thereafter, Fallon will be gone. These are people with absolutely no talent who are paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It's really good to see them go, and I hope I played a major part in it. Oh, you delicate, chubby little teacup. Did we hurt your feelings? You want us to be canceled because we make jokes about you? I thought you're against cancel culture. I thought that was like their whole thing. When did you become so woke?
Another round of derision is provided by Trump's economic boasting, in which he displays market peaks as prizes that he personally created, as though traders were receiving orders from his Twitter account. The notion of someone who takes credit for every success but never takes accountability for a failure is mocked by Kimmel. Ruffalo goes farther, pointing out that regular laborers are excluded beneath the gaudy figures. Stagnating wages and growing inequality. The fact that success under Trump appears dubious and like a magician's trick is revealed by the gilded boasting. For the middle class, it's a disappearing act with lots of show and little substance.
We saw Jimmy Kimmel's show was canceled. I heard Mark Maron today talk about it. He said, you guys were so afraid of being canceled. You went out and you screamed and you yelled about being canceled. But the cancellation was coming from people who didn't like what you had to say, who didn't agree with what you were saying and were speaking out about it. This cancellation is the United States government coming and taking your voice away from you.
The roast might go for years just based on the communication approach. Kimmel likens Trump's long-winded word salads to a comedy club open mic night where the jokes never arrive. Ruffalo highlights the dark side. Democracy itself is undermined when the president's remarks distort reality, reject facts, and muddy the truth. In practice, what may sound absurd in speech has repercussions when the language used to support policy becomes as muddled as the policy itself.
For Frosty the Snowflake, the only place we are going is to New York. Once again, we are packing up our Hailey Bieber smoothies and headed to Brooklyn for a week of shows at BAM, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, starting September 29th and October 3rd. And one of our guests that week, we have great guests lined up, will be my good friend Stephen Colbert. We have a lot to talk.
Another gold mine is Trump's fixation with feuds. Kimmel makes fun of the pettiness of a president who never stops picking fights rather than finding solutions, treating politics like a middle school cafeteria. Ruffalo emphasizes that instead of creating opponents out of thin air, that energy ought to have been used to address crises. It is heartbreaking in one way and humorous in another for the leader of the free world to act like a professional troll. A country with a president who prioritizes personal grudges over the advancement of the whole. Ruffalo takes the microphone when the conversation shifts to environmental policies. He criticizes Trump's rejection of climate change, his retraction of protections, and his obsession with fossil resources. It's similar to introducing pyromania. In command of the fire department, longtime campaigner Ruffalo emphasizes that Trump's policies are not just short-sighted, but also harmful to future generations. While the earth itself burns in the background, Kimmel lightens the mood by making a joke about how Trump only gives a damn about the green of his golf courses. Ruffalo exposes the inhumanity of tearing down safeguards for the ill under the guise of reform. It's performance art, not policy, and the audience is paying for it.
That sign, which, by the way, really put Kinko's to the test, is especially timely because this trip he's taking was planned by the UK ambassador to Washington, a guy named Peter Mandelson, who was fired last week when they found out he wrote one of the letters in the Jeffrey Epstein birthday book, which means Pete will not be there for the visit he planned, which is too bad. He and Trump would have had a lot of gross things to talk about, I'm sure. But
the staff rotation offers a never-ending supply of content. Kimmel likens it to characters in a sitcom are introduced and then written off before viewers are even given their names. According to Ruffalo, this turmoil erodes stability and leaves the country's administration operating like a badly run fast food restaurant. Trump surrounds himself with supporters who are prepared to comply with orders no matter how ridiculous, rather than with seasoned experts. Dysfunction is elevated as a ruling principle as a result. Kimmel frequently criticizes Trump's fixation on crowd sizes, pointing out that no detail is too little to exaggerate. Ruffalo interrupts to highlight the underlying fear at its core, a president who gauges his value by the thunder of a rally rather than by accomplishments. Ruffalo goes on to say that these errors are not innocuous. They make the office itself less respectable. Every occasion became an opportunity for ego, every speech into a digression, and every handshake into a competition. Trump is the sole star of an endless performance that uses the office, which was previously seen as a symbol of unity, as a prop.
So you interrupted. His first instinct is to lie, and then his second instinct is to wrap that lie in another lie, like a Crunchwrap Supreme, you know? I know how to get him to admit he did this. All you have to do is say, that drawing is great. He will immediately take credit for it. And you know this is getting to him because he did something today that he rarely does. He said nothing all day. There were no press conferences, no cabinet meetings, no public signings, no chats with reporters on the lawn. He holed up in his office all day long. He took one phone call from NBC News this morning. They asked about the letter. He said, I don't comment on something that's a dead issue.
Ruffalo focuses on immigration, revealing the brutality disguised as resilience. Families were split up, asylum seekers were turned away, and the chants of walls were repeated. Kimmel makes fun of the ridiculousness of reducing complicated human concerns to catchy catchphrases, pointing out that Trump's fixation on walls says more about his fears than it does about national security. Together, they demonstrate how Trump's obsession with appearances turns policy into a battlefield where people's lives are lost. Ruffalo doesn't hold back when it comes to voting rights. He draws attention to the irony of a president who challenges elections while frantically maintaining their validity. A man who claims the system is broken, yet insists he alone is the chosen victor, is the humorous twist that Kimmel adds. The inconsistency appears absurd unless you acknowledge the harm it causes, eroding trust in democracy in general. Persistent attacks on the voting process are poisonous, not simply trivial. When controversies occur, Ruffalo emphasizes that the chaos is intentional and part of the plan. When the system is overloaded with noise, accountability is rendered impossible. As Trump grins from the middle of the storm, the nation is left feeling lightheaded.
We're here today to commemorate a life of an American that was killed by a Nazi on American soil. Let's say her name so Donald Trump can hear what's happened here. He's allowed these people. He's allowed fascism. He's allowed the KKK. He's allowed Nazis to show their ugly face. And we're here to remind them there's a cost for that. Americans have died because of it.
His relationship with the media continues to be a point of contention. Kimmel chuckles at the ridiculousness of a president who wants the attention of reporters and treats them as foes. According to Ruffalo, there is a risk of stifling free expression and transforming respectable media into a battlefield between political parties. Democracy suffers when truth itself is compromised. Trump may enjoy making headlines, but he undermines the same institutions that are supposed to restrain his authority. Decisions pertaining to national security are also criticized. Kimmel makes fun of the impetuous tweets that appear to be announcements about foreign policy. Ruffalo highlights the carelessness of disclosing confidential information or befriending enemies at the expense of comrades. These stunts are hardly innocuous. They are wagers on world stability. A president who prioritizes publicity over strategy endangers the country as a whole. Furthermore, O'Donnell's comedy intensifies when life or death is at risk. Trump once again demonstrates that being a leader was never the aim by using even tragedy as a platform for self-promotion. The star's role was.
This morning, Trump warmed up for his date with the British press by yelling at a reporter from Australia who dared to ask about the billions of dollars he's been raking in since the election.
President Trump that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity.
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Port Morton program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone. Well, go ahead, John.
What a little tattletale he is.
Trump seems to aspire to leave a legacy of supremacy and strength. However, what Ruffalo exposes is a history of disorder, incapacity, and conceit. He creates barriers of divide rather than alliances. He agitates rather than brings people together. Rather than making a plan, he improvises. History will remember him as a cautionary tale, a warning encased in humor and conveyed by the very individuals he brushes aside as unimportant, rather than as a leader. And that's where the devastation is most noticeable. Ruffalo and Kimmel expose rather than merely make fun of. They demonstrate how Trump's entire presidency has been a precarious stage production, a show supported by bluster and bluster that is crumbling under the weight of truth. Every boast turns into a joke. Every choice is a parody. Every egotistical behavior is a new addition to the comedic canon. Ultimately, Trump's rule is more about giving comedians and activists who are committed to remind the world that the emperor has no clothes infinite material than it is about governing. What seemed absurd in a late-night monologue became actual hardships for the people who were subjected to careless leadership. Their combined perspective depicts a man who is fixated on tradition, but unable to see that genuine power stems from service rather than theatrics.
Certain he didn't do this. Well, he's never lied before. Listen, even his lies have other lies on top of them. When the Wall Street Journal broke this story the first time, Trump said, I don't even do drawings. And then immediately, 25 drawings he did came out, like 10 seconds later, which he had to know would happen. But he can't help it. He can't just stop it. I didn't draw it. He goes straight to, I've never drawn. I don't even have a pen. Well, what's that Sharpie in your hand, Mr. No, that's not a Sharpie. That's mascara. I was about to do J.D. Vance's eyeliner.
His reign was characterized by instability that extended beyond public outbursts or careless remarks. It dealt with how institutions buckled under the weight of snap judgments. His actions frequently weakened democracy rather than strengthened it. He fostered an atmosphere that encouraged false information, undermined accountability, and reduced faith in the leadership. Through their witty and sardonic criticism of these shortcomings, Kimmel and Ruffalo serve as a reminder to viewers that humor is more than just amusement. It teaches by incorporating truth into humor. Ironically, Trump came seen as weak because of his desire to be perceived as a powerful man. Although his tenure showed a person continuously struggling to manage self-inflicted crises, he wanted to display control. The more he made an effort to come across as authoritative, the more his facade began to break. While Ruffalo presents those conflicts as tragic results of misaligned priorities, Kimmel takes advantage of them and uses them as comedy fodder. When taken as a whole, their criticisms go beyond simple derision. They highlight the hollowness that lies at the heart of his quest for power. Each administration leaves a legacy of pivotal events. Ruffalo highlights the harm, while Kimmel's timing draws out the funny. The mix guarantees that the message is understood. While history may chuckle, it will also lament the lost chances for meaningful advancement.
In a press conference representing his constituency with a question to the Homeland Security who has invaded that state with a military presence, you know you're heading towards dictatorship. That's a turning point. You're only going to see more of that happen. This administration will continue to overreach, and this will be the response.
Trump viewed his boldness, power, unpredictable nature, and his downfall turned out to be self-promotion. In the context of late-night criticism, these characteristics show weakness rather than strength. He went into self-parody because he felt the need to control every discussion, every headline, and every moment. By continually exaggerating his own significance, he provided detractors with an unlimited amount of content to critique. While Ruffalo turns this excess into a call for caution against leaders who mistake hubris for vision, Kimmel thrives on it. The warning that comes to light is not only about one man, but also about the perils of prioritizing spectacle over management. Trump's rule is evidence that competence and vanity cannot be replaced by bluster, cannot generate vision. His myth is gradually destroyed by Kimmel and Ruffalo, who transform the story of power into a parody of excess. They are thoroughly destroyed because they reveal the truth concealed underneath the charade, not because they shout the loudest. Without substance, leadership crumbles under its own weight. And as Kimmel and Ruffalo keep spreading that message, the impression that remains is one of a performer who confused praise for success rather than a leader who commanded respect.